Okay, great. So welcome to everybody joining the webinar today. It's a joint webinar with in connection with Finext. So let's move on. Today we'd like to welcome Jürgen from Finext. He, as we mentioned, a joint presentation between Newired and Finext. Let's hear from Jürgen. Hi.
Hi, Tegan. Thank you for having me. Yes, welcome everyone to the webinar, Why Every CFO Should Need a Digital Adoption Platform to Reinforce the Financial Function. I'm giving this webinar together with Newired. And today we're just going to zoom in why this new technology that's, for some people, it might be a little bit unknown, is actually very useful for financial functions, and primarily for that CFO trying to make sure that his financial function works on the best of its capacity. Just a little short introduction about Finext. Finext is the place to be for CFO technology. We are a consultancy firm that implements financial technology such as performance management systems, but we also support with, for example, purchase-to-pay systems and disclosure management systems. And we've been doing this for the last 20 years or so. Part of our portfolio, next to implementing these solutions, is looking into the principles that go around it. Think about advisory, think about maybe some interim support that we are able to provide to our clients. And on the other end, it's new technologies such as these to make sure that those applications that we already implemented, that are already working for your organization, are working even better. And that is pretty much also the reason why we are here today. As Finext, we've been looking into digital adoption platforms and have been in contact with Newired, and as so, we have been asked to give a short insight as to why digital adoption platforms are there to help a CFO with their financial function. So yeah, Finext founded in 1999. We have 150 active employees at the moment. I would say that's when we go look at the Benelux, we are currently one of the primary partners when it comes to EPM implementations. That's just a little bit about Finext, and now I would like to give it back to Tegan, who will go a little bit more into Newired.
Thanks, Jürgen. So what we're going to plan to cover today is some financial functions around digital adoption, the actual demo, our solution. We actually also have a special time set up for the editor where you actually create these journeys, and some question and answers. So let's get into that. In a few words, Newired helps companies deliver a improved user experience to their employees and customers alike. Our mission here at Newired is to define new digital ways and reduce the distance between people and the digital world. We started our journey in 2016 and have been constantly praised by customers and independent software review companies for our transparency in price and all-around delivery of our application. We diligently continue working to improve our software as we expand in the market. We all know that business experience multiple challenges in this fast technology changing world. Besides the points listed on the screens, like failure to adopt and adapt and effective adoption, technology advancing exponentially, training costs, we found is one of the biggest challenge. So Newired fits this gap in the market. We really like to cut the learning curve by having in application direction for small processes or complex tasks, and you can see by this graph that when we do pick up a new application or a new subject to learn, there's always a learning curve. You know, you get the grasp of things. There could be some changes. There could be some events that allow the application to change, and you would need to retrain or be re-exposed to that small areas. And how Newired fits in is we create this in-app guidance system, so you don't have to leave your app to educate your employees or your users. It's really just a function that they can choose at any time in the whole process. So our next step is to show you a little demo as to how the application works in a demo environment. For that, I'm just going to switch over to the other screen here. There we go. So here we have our demo CRM suite. We have our launcher for Newired generally in this corner. This can obviously be changed to your organization's needs. It could either be changed to an icon or moved around the screen. Here we are welcomed with a how to log in process and also a playbook. The playbooks are groups of these processes. We can change the language and we can change the user experience level. So let's log in. Let's follow one of these journeys. We are introduced to Newired and it tells us that we are going to go through the login process. It instructs us to fill out a username. And it tells us to fill out a password. Then it tells us to click on a login. We don't need these things up. And then we are, once in the CRM, it gives us another welcome and says that if we need Newired or if we need to be instructed, we'll find the help triangle in the bottom right-hand corner. As explained, you launch it here. Now, when you look at the journeys that you have on offer, you have many more journeys. This is using visibility rules that can control what data or journeys are visible to your end client. To give you an overview of the application, we run this journey. It's going to talk about each button, give us maybe a highlight of what we should be looking for, describe the tabs. There is also a back button, so you could go back if you needed to. We also have some sort of animation for if you click in the wrong place. So we geared our software also for visually challenged people. So you can always have something highlighting the course or the process for your end users. So as we follow through the overview, it just shows us all the different interesting parts of the CRM. Once that loads up, we can just go through the next options. So here we have you can see a slightly grayer cutout. This stops the end user from clicking on other action steps. So you can draw out your process quite to almost like a pinhole if you don't want them to move around the target application. That's also possible. So just being redirected. So that just shows us the quick overview. If you want to set up an overview within your target application, that's very simple. What I want to show you next is a process. So here we go. We run the process. We want to create a new account. This says, okay, this will take us to create a new account. Again, it's called Spotlight, so they can't click on anything but what is selected. Okay, click account. Good. We then see that we need to fill out all the details with asterisks are mandatory. Good. Okay, and then once we're done, we click on save. So let's put in some information here. Here we also have some hover tips. This is part of Newired. So if you hover around a field, you can urge your end users to put in specific data. You can also use visibility rules by adding in something like this. And it says, well, look, you need to put the state in here. We say, okay, the Big Apple. Up, big. Okay, if we had to save now, knowing that we haven't done all the fields, it prompts us back to say, hey, mister, you haven't finished all the fields. Please, can you put in the marked fields? And once you're done, please click save. And there we go. We have followed a process all the way to the end using Newired. At the end, you are allowed to give feedback, or you can end the journey in the feedback. Very simply, this is all changeable, customizable if you want. But as a default, you can say, hey, this is great, works well. And if you want to remain anonymous, you leave it blank. If you'd like your details to be in, you just put in your name so they know who's sent that information. And we send that off. So in a nutshell, that is what our software does. I now hand back over to Jürgen. He is going to give us some understanding on how digital adoption can help efficiency. Jürgen, you there?
Yes, I am. We'll be showing my screen.
Awesome. Okay.
Yes. So moving on to the more financial part, I would like to start off with one of the key benefits that we at Finext have identified when it comes to digital adoption platforms, and that is the contribution it has to the efficiency of the people within a financial function. And before I want to go more into detail, I would first like to give you an example of the average day of a business controller in the forecasting process. So imagine this. You are responsible for the sales forecast of your organization. Every month, your sales managers in every country that your organization is present in have to submit their sales forecast to you. That shows how much revenue are they going to make, how much cost of sales, etc. At the beginning of the month, you will see that you have this loyal group of controllers who will always put it in time. You always have this group of people who you know that they will probably submit it somewhere 5 seconds before you actually have to hand it into your boss. But especially when the deadline approaches, you want to start working on preparing the actual end result for your boss. But the phone rings. You get a controller from country A, and this controller is like, dear Mr. or dear Miss Business Controller, I'm trying to put in my forecast, but it doesn't allow me to do it. Like, I don't know what to do. I cannot find the button. So you have to go make a Teams call, show them where the button is, and then they can press the button and then they can submit it. This might take you 10, 15 minutes of your time. But then when you try and go back to producing your end result, the controller from country B calls, and he is like, yeah, I'm trying to submit my file, but it doesn't want to submit, and I don't know what to do. And after, well, you find out through research that he tried to submit the data in US dollars, while his country is, for example, a European country. So you have to submit in euros instead of dollars. So then the file will be like, yeah, I mean, I have digits in it, like I can understand that it's finance, but it's the wrong currency, so I'm not going to allow it. And sometimes these type of issues tend to happen quite frequently, especially when you have companies that use multiple currencies. It is one of the most common issues that we see in the forecasting process. You, again, put down the phone, start working on your end result, and then the phone goes again because a controller from country C has an issue. So this cycle continues and continues. And while it keeps continuing, you keep taking on these little issues that can easily be solved, but you have to solve them because otherwise you cannot produce your end result. Eventually, you realize an hour before your deadline that you have all the results, like you have all the inputs, but the actual outputs that you have to produce, you cannot produce it, or at least you cannot produce it in time because you only have an hour, where normally it would take you days to make it. So you have to call your boss and say that his forecast is delayed, and you probably get the blame for it. It is a run-of-the-mill day for a business controller sometimes when it comes to a forecasting process. And I think that is especially where digital adoption platforms come in to help. As you just saw in Tegon's demo, very simple steps like filling in a certain cell, but also filling in a certain cell in the right way. As you just saw, Tegon, of course, filled in the USA, and automatically the system said, or at least the digital adoption platform said, remember, you have to fill in the state. You can do the same, for example, with financials and figures. You can say, if you fill in that you're a European country, you have to use euros as your currency. If you don't use euros as your currency, you have to change it to euros, because otherwise the system is not going to accept it. And these type of controls can really help an end user to solve issues himself, instead of picking up that phone and calling you as a business controller, as the application owner, to go and solve those issues. So the business controller is actually able to do what he is hired to do, create that output that gives his boss the insight that he needs to go into a board meeting and tell how the company is running. What we mean with that is,
okay.
Sorry,
the slides weren't showing. The slides weren't moving, but now it's good. You can go on. Okay. Thanks.
Perfect. So one of the things that we saw is, of course, the understanding of people inside the process. The financial function is a function within an organization with a very diverse group of people in it. You have accountants, you have controllers, but especially since, let's say, the last 3 to 4 years, it's also more business people or people from the operations that are involved in the finance function. Think about the example I just gave with the sales manager. It's a role that isn't that much present inside the financial function until the few recent years, but they have a very different way of looking at the world than the average financial does. So using a digital adoption platform to build a process, or at least build journeys around these people, and helping them to understand what we financials would say basic material of the finance function, can really help us to understand these people better, and also make the communication between these parties, make this communication better. A lot of research shows that we have this principle called silos, wherein a salesperson thinks in a sales way and a finance person thinks in a finance way, and we are not able to get those two people to connect together. But I think with a digital adoption platform, we are able to do this, because we can help them to understand us better, and vice versa as well. Like, for example, maybe a finance person needs to do something in sales applications, or has to do something in a sales process. They can do the same for us, making a sales process understandable for the financial target group. The second one, or at least the third one, is the reduced complexity in processes. And this is especially for the software that we implemented Finext. We tend to look at software that has a more tactical and strategical nature. And these software use a lot of complex calculations to calculate things such as rolling forecasts, consolidated year-end figures, management reports that tend to be of a more complex nature. Therefore, the software also has to be of a more complex nature to make sure that it can handle the calculations that it needs to do. And for the average end user in the finance department, the software, 9 out of 10 times they are able to understand the basic functionalities, but the second it becomes something different than the basic functionality, it becomes very difficult for them. And therefore, with a digital adoption platform, you can help them to bridge the gap between the basic functionality and their organization-specific functionality, which is something that is quite common in the financial field. Every company has, of course, its basic financial things that it has to do, but everyone does it in a different way. So everyone has their own type of workflow. Everyone has their own specific way of loading in data, maybe even extracting data. Some people will use, for example, Power BI to report your data in. So you also want to make sure that Power BI is integrated with your solution. We will also go into that a little bit later as to why a digital adoption platform can help with these various solutions. But it helps with reducing the complexity in these, especially customized processes. The third one, I just keep counting back because with the slide. But the fourth one is the educating of new process contributors faster. And this is especially in 2022, we start to see that workforce is, of course, a quickly rotating mechanism. People leave and join companies at a rapid rate. So also knowledge leaves and joins at a rapid rate. And what you want to make sure of is to make sure that these new process contributors actually are able to work independently as fast as possible, because otherwise they will start to use your key resources as their personal trainers, which for them is very good, but for you as a CFO, you might need these key resources to ensure that your process is running correctly. So having them, helping them work independently as fast as possible is a definite key to having a good process. And with a digital adoption platform, you can give them that help to independently find the solution to a problem or independently go through the process without going directly to this key user, without directly going to this business controller from the example we had earlier. Moving on then. Another thing that we believe that digital adoption platforms are very good for is the adoption of new financial processes. And with new financial processes, we don't mean that these processes have never existed. It is that certain types of processes, they start to become new types of processes because the way we're doing these processes change. And as an example for you that I will provide to you today is a process within Treasury that we like to call cross-currency swaps. For the non-financials in the call here, a cross-currency swap is pretty much a company sells a currency, let's say $100,000 to a certain amount of euros, and they go onto a so-called deal platform to ensure that they can do this deal. So they ask for euros equivalent to $100,000. Most companies tend to use so-called treasury management systems to keep track on how their treasury is running. So how much money is on their bank accounts, how much money is flowing out of these bank accounts, and also what type of currencies are being used within the organization. And next to that, we of course have our good old ERP system in which the actual financial accounting is being done. So you have a process here that involves a lot of systems, especially for a financial function. There are certain processes that just require one system, but there are also processes that just require these multiple systems to be used. And I think that especially when we look at Newired here, when we talk about digital adoption platform, there is a key strength in the integration of these multiple systems. And I don't talk about a data integration, but more as a user interface integration to make this process one synergized process. So as you can see here with number one, we start to look at a deal and we perform the currency swap in the deal platform. And when you do this currency swap, normally you get this confirmation sheet that says, I have got 90,000 euros for $100,000. So what we tend to do is you load these into your treasury management system, and the treasury management system can say, okay, so I see 90,000 euros, $100,000. I remove $100,000 from here and I add 90,000 euros there. And it creates a CSV file, which pretty much says like, okay, this is the booking that you have to make in your financial system. And then you can load that into your ERP system, and it pretty much translates the file into a financial booking that can be sent to your accountant, like, okay, go and make sure that we have this booking done so the books are correct. With Newired, you're able to make this one integrated process. So when you're done in the deal platform, it automatically takes you into the treasury management system where you can load in that confirmation file, export the accounting file, and you can load that accounting file again into the ERP system. Next, another key benefit of a digital adoption platform is the ever-changing financial world. There is just a lot of new things going on around at the moment. Before you here, you see the current 2022 finance technology bullseye. This is a graph made by Gartner that pretty much depicts the technologies that are going on at the moment in the world of finance. And you see there are three levels to it. You have the in use, which is in the core. You have the adapting or the adopting circle, which is the second layer, and the exploring layer, which is the outside layer that you're seeing here. A lot of these systems, you might have heard of them before. Think about ERPs, think about the treasury management system. We just talked about those. RPA software, it's also very common nowadays to see those. But you start to see when you go on the outside layer, you might see some things that you might have heard of in the corridors of your organization, but you're not looking at it yet from a serious point of view. But maybe in the next years, you might. Newired itself is actually also here. If you look on the top left, you see the point of knowledge management technology. Newired is a great example of a knowledge management technology that is currently being rolled out to the market. But a lot of these solutions are solutions that tend to be more, I wouldn't say complex, but different when it comes to finance. Financials, for example, do not really have a good idea of what an iPaaS does. You see an iPaaS on the outside layer, and it's an integrated platform as a service, which you can use to integrate various systems together on the data level. And this is a system that for the average financial, it's quite uncommon and also a little bit unknown as to how they have to use it. But with a digital adoption platform, you can give them a guide on how to work with it in the case that you implement it. So it helps you adopting faster to these new solutions. It makes the gap or the bridge towards going for these new solutions a little bit less steep, because you can pretty much document everything in terms of knowledge that you get from your other partners that might have more experience with these types of software. You can document them and put them into the digital adoption platform, put them in Newired, and make it so that they can independently run the solution. Now I would like to give it back to Tegan, because he also wants to show the Newired editor, which is also one of the key aspects of why Newired is so good for the financial function, because it is so incredibly easy to do. And therefore, I would like to give it back to Tegan, because he can show you how easy it is to work with Newired.
Awesome, thanks, thanks Jürgen. So there we go. So you should see my screen again. We are second time running software review champions. So this is something the organization in a whole is very proud of. As you can see, we have a couple points that we sort of use as differentiators. We do really way better than our competitors. We have different methods of deploying the software. You could use a browser extension for small test groups or to roll out if you like, or you could have a snippet set up within your target application, and that will allow Newired to be accessible to all your end users. We do a full on-premise setup if you want, or a dedicated cloud solution, and we have very flexible pricing, and as well as we are really focused on helping our clients achieve their goals, having subscription models where we can sit with you on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis and make sure that we are using the software to its potential. So that's really something that we found our clients are really excited about. To recap, it's very simple to use. It's robust. When we say robust, we say that if you have updates to your target application, Newired, if it's general updates, it's perfect. But if you have something where the whole application is changing dramatically, then we need to go in and change small things. But on general updates, the robustness is there, and Newired automatically knows there was some change and keeps the journeys running. We're very high on security and privacy. We offer on-premise installation. You can control all the content you publish in. You can have different publishing methods. We offer multi-application support. So if your organization has 2 or 3 applications like Workday or SAP or any of these other HR applications that you need to run between these multi-applications, we support that. We offer a high-end multi-language support. So if you want your content to be delivered in 6 different languages, 10 different languages, this is optional. We can definitely do that. And on our website, we have all our pricing and fair, quite transparent for you to go through and have a look. So this takes me to my last demonstration for today. I want to show you how easy it is to use Newired within the editor. If you look at the image on the screen, basically the Newired software sits as an overlay on your target application. So there's no slowing in the target application process. Everything works very seamlessly. So I am going to just switch screens once again. This is the demo that we just saw, and let's open up our editor. Okay, it's just popped up in another screen. So as you can see, we are now in the editor. You have a browser sort of look and feel where you can test the journeys as you are creating them. And here is where you can manage the different tips, journeys, and playbooks. So for this case, we should be logged in. So let's just quickly log in. And we would like to create a new journey. So just give it a few seconds to load up. Sorry, my internet is sometimes a little slow here. Okay, so we'll call this a test for now. You can have different options here. We save that. And the first step we want to do is we want our clients to click on that button. Once they do, you can easily just move this around the screen and type in information if you'd like to here. Once you're done, you say confirm change. The next step that we'd like to do is we want them to click on the create account. So we then go to our selector. We can easily just move this here. If you want to open the big editor, very simply press on the little pencil. And here you can do the same sort of things within moving the bubbles around. You can even add the spotlight or animation, different things, and we save it and confirm changes. Once our user has clicked on create account, we want them just to add a new step, another call out, say maybe type full name here. Okay, we confirm the changes, and maybe a last one, another one here. We want the end user. Did I select that? Okay, there we go. Easily just move that across to put in type your extension here, and we confirm the changes. We can also then tell the client to save their process. So click this, easily just pull that across and confirm the changes. So in less than a minute, about a minute and a half, we've created a process that the end user could follow. So we can test it within our editor by running the journey from the beginning. Once it loads up, it will. This is a new feature. Please join our webinar next week on the 10th, I believe it is. We will be sending out communications, but this new feature allows, for reporting purpose, your identity to send to the company. This is a optional setting. So as a company, as an organization, if you decide to have your reporting set up this way, you can put in your details. It can also somehow pull the user information in that way. As I say, this is completely optional, so you can either just set your rules as an organization to use it or not. And if you choose not to, we do not record any type of personal data. So testing this out again, I think for this, I'll just put in my name so they know who it is. We then say, click on account, create account. Next step. There we go, fill in our name. There we go. Yes, put in my extension. Good. And if you notice, the scroll or the Newired has moved us all the way to the bottom of the page, so we can click on save. And this happens all automatically. Once we click save, we've created the new contact. So in under a minute, we have created a process that can streamline your workflows. So that's it from the editor side of things. We have much more to talk about in all the portals and all the other things that we can offer. I suggest setting up some time either with our customer engagement managers or through the website. We are always available to help you through this. So now I think we can open it up to some questions. Again, if you think if you have anything else to add.
So yeah, Theo, I had one question. I just saw this new feature with the identity. Would it also be possible, for example, to make this a very role specific identity? So when we look at finance, as I just described, there's a lot of roles that could be happening in a financial function. Think about controllers, think about accountants, think about tax specialists. Would it also be possible to do it on like a role level, so they can choose, like, for example, I want to become a controller. So when I select controller, on one end, I see all the journeys that are relevant for me as a controller, and on the other end, the system knows, okay, this person is a controller, so I have to look when I make a report. I make a report based on this person being a controller.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we use it in a setup called user experience. If you notice, we have here, this is also completely editable. You can change this from newcomer to maybe, as you mentioned, the topics you'd like. And as you do, it gives you a set of journeys specified for that user experience.
Okay.
So
that's good.
So that's definitely something that is possible. Yeah. The new feature that we mentioned, like I say, we're going to have a webinar coming up soon, and we're going to go in depth with our new release and what's coming up in 22.3. So please, if you can join, it will be appreciated. Yeah, I see some more questions coming through. We have one around translations, which means okay, so they say, how do we manage the translations? Basically, what happens is, if you, yes, you do see my screen, we have an area in the portal where you can choose a multiple of different languages. We then download this file, get it translated. We have it as part of our service offering. We can definitely do this translations, or if you have someone in your organization that speaks Dutch and is able to do this translations, they really just download the file, open up an editor, make the changes, and then upload the file. Once it's published, it's available to all your end users. So that's the translation side of things. Let's just see if there's any more questions coming through. Oh, we have one. Yes. So we have a question about links. It's in those journey bubbles. You can add in video links. You can add in links to knowledge bases. You can add in hyperlinks. You could even add in, I know in your industry this may make a lot of sense, a plugin where you can have a digital converter. You know, we can convert from euros to dollar. I can show you how that looks in a quick demo. Let me just look at the right screen here. So we will need to be in our editor, and let's just add a new, just for as an example, it could be anywhere in this. Let's just cancel here. So we going to create account. Just waiting for this to, okay, so we could go in and we say add a new tip. We want the tip, for example, you have a field here. We just confirm that, we edit it. Yeah, we can put a little icon up in place. so that we know this is the icon. And here we can insert a currency converter. So we insert that and we save. So when they go into this area, I just need to refresh. Let's just refresh that. Then you have a currency converter. You could put in surveys. You could put multiple of different solutions in that area. So if we look at this tip here, we have a currency converter right in your application. So that's a very nice feature that's may be relevant in your space, Jürgen. Good. So I know we've gone over our time limit a little bit. It was a pleasure hosting this event with you, Jürgen. Is there anything else we can touch on before we end? We
Maybe,
do have.
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that we have recorded this presentation, so it will be made available to all the attendees for you to forward around to your colleagues and so on. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm just seeing if there's any other questions we could get. Yeah, so one of the questions is how do we manage this content? We offer training on how to use our application, and with this basic and advanced training, you will have the capability of creating these dynamic things by yourself, these dynamic journeys. You can always involve us in this interaction, and we can support you in that way. But we try to make it as simple as possible and easy to use. You know, the complex stuff, we are really here to support you around it, and we host many events for training and understanding the application. So that's a good one. So I would like to take this time to thank everyone for joining the webinar today, a joint webinar between Finext and Newired. And if there's nothing else, have a great afternoon further.
Great afternoon all.
Okay, cheers everybody.